Hi, this is John Madden, sitting in the light of a street light behind my hotel, the Hampton Inn in Ciudad Victoria, Mexico. There's the street light, there's the hotel. Way out there is La Avenida Tamaulipas, an 8-lane road in the city with 3 medians. It is staggering, scary to try to cross with my dog, and in the dark, if you haven't been around here too long, it's got 3 medians in that road. So in the dark, if you haven't been here too long and you're looking for the road, I'm sure I'm not the only one to jump a median and blow out a tire. That's the blown out tire. And do other damage to their car. I'm sure it happens all the time, you know. It's a crazy place. But they've been awfully good to us here. And we stayed here one night and then went to the mountains, to a fabulous park for 48 hours. And then broke down. And I had to do some amazing driving to get down here. And we were parked right there for, I think, a week or more. And now my car is off in the shop, and I'm back in the hotel for hopefully just tonight. It's been several nights now, but I'm burning up money that I have to use to pay the mechanic. So it's kind of crazy. So as I was sitting here, I just sent off a text message to my favorite friend back where I used to live for 16 years in Asheville, North Carolina, in the beautiful Battery Park Apartments. Spectacular old building. It was once the Battery Park Hotel was one of the grand hotels of the Appalachian Mountains. So it's a stunning building converted to subsidized senior apartments. And when I lived there, it was kind of under protest. A seniors building downtown, none of that fit me. But I made one fabulous friend, Diana Buchanan, who I'm still corresponding with regularly and did just now. And I'm a storyteller and a poet and a performing guy. And while I was there, I wrote a 15-minute, get ready, get your cup of coffee, story about our friendship, which I performed to 75 people who responded quite well to it. I worked on that story. Usually stuff just tumbles out. I just take dictation from spirit and it comes out in one draft pretty much. I worked hard on that story and I love it a lot. And I just found it. It's buried deep in my iCloud. And I have 2 iPhones because I lost one, and by the time it got replaced, a guy had found it. A Latino guy with a metal detector had found it on the beach. So now I have 2 iPhones, one with phone service and one that just does shit like hold my script when I'm reading. But they both do great video, so I can do, I'm doing that now. So here's my story, Soul Friends, dedicated to my friend Diana Buchanan. Last year, I lived in 7 houses in 10 months. Some of them were roommate squabbles. I hated them or they hated me. One was a landlord issue. He hated us and we hated him. One of them hated my little 5-pound Yorkie Poo dog, the completely adorable Tony, who was clearly a menace. This whole saga was as harrowing to my friends following my adventures as it was for me. I used to write very long paragraphs. This is all one paragraph. I don't do that anymore. It was as harrowing to my friends to follow my adventures as it was for me. They were afraid to read their Facebook for fear of what I might have posted now, like, oh, has he moved again? So when my friends heard on Facebook that I was moving into the famous Battery Park Apartments, they did victory dances all over Asheville. Believe it or not, I had a lot of friends in Asheville. So now it's 3 years on the road with a dog. But in Asheville, I've been there 16 years, and I was an extra. I had a lot of friends. So, Battery Park Apartments. Famous for the location right downtown, directly across from the very historic, also Old Grove Arcade. Famous for the amazing history of the old hotel. Famous for the year to 3 years it took people to get in. I was lucky and waited only a year. Famous for nice, large, remodeled, one-bedroom apartments right downtown, rent-controlled, need-based senior living, charging rents that all over town would get you a studio with free cockroaches, because Asheville is so popular a place to live. The rents are just completely unaffordable. Famous for the reputation that you could live there 3 months and not see anybody under 60. Yeah, oh God. Famous for the word that nobody ever moved out except on a gurney. You just don't leave there because it's, it's primo. You wait 3 years to get in, and rent control, you stay there. My friends were so relieved that I had landed there that a month later, when in one of my bad moods I told one of them that I needed to move out, they said, "No, you don't. No, you fucking don't." My friends talk that way. I gotta scroll this thing. No, you don't. No, you fucking don't. If you so much as attempt to move one stick of furniture out of that fucking apartment, I will come down there myself and rip that chair out of your feeble old hands and sit on your fucking chest. I didn't read this in advance. This is a riot. Until you get your head out of your fucking ass and agree to stay put. And then she told me what she really felt. I can't remember what friend that would have been, but I do have friends who talk that way. I have bipolar disorder, and this is written back when I still thought I did, 30 years that I thought I did. That in 20 years, my meds have never gotten under control. I have no middle ground. I'm up or I'm down. In the interest of fairness, my raging, I thought it was biochemistry. It wasn't at all. It was just that they told me I had a mental illness and they put me on stupid drugs. It was a clinically induced depression. In the interest of fairness, my raging biochemistry tends to give me roughly the same amount of time up as down. In the really bad old days after I was first diagnosed, I once went 6 months up and 6 months down. I don't know which mood was worse, flat on the floor or through the roof. A few years ago, I was for a year consistently 2 to 3 days up and then 2 to 3 days down. I was obsessed with that kind of shit. And it was all, once I realized that I was okay, I got off all my drugs and I've been great for 3 years. But back then, this is what it was like for me. I was just obsessed. A few years ago, I was for a year consistently 2 to 3 days up and then 2 to 3 days down. When I was down, I knew that in just a couple of days I would be up again. So I knew I could ride it out. My life was total chaos. Lately, I've been 2 to 3 weeks up and then 2 to 3 weeks down. Oh God, it makes me sad to remember how terrible all that was. I have to scroll again. This is gonna be more than 15 minutes. 2 cups of coffee. Some parts of my moods are relatively predictable. When I'm moving, which has been every other week lately, I gear up for the move. At 4 a.m., I'm throwing shit in boxes. After a move, within a week, I am crashed flat on the floor. As I was moving into the Battery Park Apartments and for the next week, I loved everything. I loved the layout of my apartment. I loved the views out my 5th floor windows. So for a week, I liked most everything. Okay, except my neighbors. What am I doing with all these old people? Yeah, at 72, I cleared the bar for living there 10 years ago, but I'm not like really old. I'm a young person walking around disguised as in an old suit. So I kinda, in that first week, stayed clear of my neighbors. Then, after a week of being up and mostly liking everything, I crashed and hated everything, especially my neighbors. Old? I'm not old. Or disabled. maybe a little crazy, but I just have a little bipolar disorder. But the symbol of what I wanted to avoid in my neighbors, the woman I most wanted to avoid, she helped me write this part and insisted I use her real name, was the woman out in front of the building all day, every day, in overalls every day, chain smoking all day, every day. Smoking is not allowed anywhere in the building. Like light the next cigarette off the last cigarette just before it burns your fingers all day, every day. After long, hard struggles over a couple of years to get off cigarettes, I had 8 years ago gotten free. Her especially, I wanted to stay clear of. So I went 3 weeks down. Then I had a stroke. I was certainly caused by stress. I've had others since, and every one of them has been stress-related. Then I had a stroke. It didn't kill me, didn't leave me paralyzed, or with any long-term symptoms except some balance issues and the risk of having another. Yeah, it was a risk. 3 days later, I checked out of the hospital a new man. I had had my brush with death and had come back from the brink. I was more than happy to be alive. My depression had passed and I was again wonderfully up. I wanted life, all of it. I wanted to embrace my new apartment, including my neighbors. So when the friend who had been caring for Tony, my little dog, picked me up at the hospital and dropped us off in front of Battery Park Apartments with my little overnight bag, there were no parking spots. No, I'll be fine getting myself in, really. In front of the building, the icon of Battery Park Apartments, the woman with the overalls and the cigarettes. She looked too young to live there, and it turned out that she was. She had gotten in for a disability 10 years before. Okay, I'm going to make friends with her first. Hey, how you doing? Nice day, huh? Can I bum a smoke? It's just what I said. Okay, let's do it. And I'm a happy smoker these days of American Spirits non-additives, and I do really well on American Spirits, but I can't even get them in Mexico. From there began one of the most amazing friendships of my life. I discovered that although her schooling back in Mexico and here in Chicago was sparse and lousy, Diana was she had lived on the north side of Chicago. I knew exactly where she used to live when in her teen years, because I'm from Chicago. Was sparse and lousy. Diana was extremely smart, brilliant in some areas, interesting, a great communicator, able and willing to share deeply about herself, as well as being a world-class listener. Extraordinarily generous. That's Latina. That's so consistently Latina. And adored my Tony, my little 5-pound Yorkie poo. Most everybody actually did, but Diana more than anybody. And Tony, who mostly loved everybody, especially loved Diana. And we smoked together. What started as sharing a smoke, then a couple, became a full-fledged habit. 2 days after having that first cigarette, I went to the smoke shop to buy 1 pack so I wouldn't be mooching off of Diana, who clearly was of modest means. I had no idea how modest her means were. She never worked in corporations. She was an artist, busker, musician. Never paid into the Social Security system, so she gets a tiny check. There's a rigged system, huh? The more you made while you were earning, the more you get in Social Security. Yeah, that's the American way. When it was my turn at the counter to go get cigarettes, I totally shocked myself by ordering 3 packs. Who's that voice? When I got outside, I talked to that voice. What are you doing? I just want a few cigarettes. The voice said back, who are you trying to kid? You're in it now. Soon, Diana became Aunt Diana for Tony. Diana sat for her when I went out. Tony, who for some reason had stopped sleeping in my bed, napped with Diana. Tony, who never really cuddled with me, with Diana would sleep here, up against the side of her head. Diana then went from Aunt Diana to christening herself Mama. It accurately reflected her relationship with Tony. We became co-parents. Never a hint of romance on either side. We have checked in with each other about this a couple of times. We are blessedly clear of that. But we had become an ersatz family. When I announced to our smoking posse, all spokes in the wheel to Diana's hub, people loved to be with her. In front of the building that I had to leave to take Tony to the vet to find out why she was walking even less than usual, Diana asked, "Can I go?" She dropped everything and didn't smoke until we got out of the vet's office. After running a lot of expensive tests, the vet said, "She has congestive heart failure. Like people with heart disease, she could have a relatively long life, or she could die of a heart attack tomorrow." I forgot this story was going to go deep into Tony dying, and I just lost a puppy. Let's see if I keep it together. Diana and I digested the news together. We grieved together. Our baby might not make it. Our little angelic being, who had always seemed to inhabit a rarefied atmosphere above this earthly plane, now seemed more precious than ever. Then came the liver disease. Diana: "I still have a good feeling. I think she will have a long life." Me: "Her liver's shot, Diana. She's not going to be here much longer." I still thought we might have her a few weeks longer. When 2 days later my friends Karen and Lisa convinced me that she was looking terrible, that it was time to let her go, I realized how much denial I also was living in. As I grieved, I feared what this conversation with Diana would be like. Perhaps, finally, this would be our first big fight. When I told Diana it was time to let Tony go, she was amazing, astonishing. "Hey, you're the real parent. You know her better than I. You hear her labored breathing all night long. You got to make the call." And she really, truly, totally fell in behind the plan. I arranged for the Four Paws Mobile Euthanasia Group to come to my apartment the next morning. Monday morning at 10 a.m., I called a few of Tony's favorite people to come be with us. Amazingly, 4 of 5 were free, and each loved Tony so much that there was no question of them coming. At the releasing ceremony, Diana was as strong as I thought she would be. She held her baby tenderly. At one point, one of my friends gently said to her, "Maybe you could let Majo hold her now." I had not even noticed that she might be taking too long a turn. The next day, we wheeled Tony in the stroller she loved 3 blocks over to Montford to bury her in Amanda's backyard, which she also loved. I dug the grave. We together laid Tony in it. We cried. A week later, I shocked everyone by saying that, still clearly grieving over Tony, I was going to quit smoking. I had tried several times lately and failed bitterly. I'm going to do it the right way this time. Get lots of support from the state Quitline help resources. Tony's death made me want life more than ever. These things are killing me. I can't breathe right anymore. Diana and I had the conversation. We no longer had our baby to pull us together. Tony died on October 1. If I stopped smoking on my quit date of October 29, what about us? I was very clear that there would be no more children to pull us together. I won't be ready to let another dog into my life and my heart for a minimum of 1 to 2 years. Diana said, "I'm afraid I'm going to lose you." And in some ways she has. We no longer start our days with that first smoke of the day at 7 a.m. out in front of the building. I no longer make several trips a day out to the front stoop. If there are more than 2 smokers out there at a time, My sobriety feels threatened, and I stay away. I hate the cold. While even with her Mexican blood, Diana endures it out there most of the day. But we both crave and continue this friendship. I will leave the building by the front door even when my car is in the back parking lot out back. I will endure the cold for a while to talk with her. Her smoking, for some reason, never threatens my sobriety. We go down to World Coffee on a warm, sunny day and sit outside, and she has 6 cigarettes. We wrote this story together. We are soul friends, and we know it. We will never let each other go until one of us goes out on a gurney. I've been totally clean of cigarettes since October 26th and have not had a craving. The Quit Line counselor the other day asked me the 2 questions. How much do you want to stay off cigarettes? 1 to 10? 10. No question. How sure are you that you will stay off them? 8. I could weep. Not weeping anymore. Don't take my cigarettes away from me. I love them. Hey, if you have any time after the show, and I was doing this in front of 75 people at a storytelling evening, you could walk with me the 3 blocks back to Battery Park to meet Diana. Diana hates crowds and knew this was not for her, coming to the show. She was my first audience for the finished story the other night and gave the whole thing her blessing. She's sitting for Panchita, a.k.a. Pancho, a 5-year-old adorable female chihuahua, my totally loyal Mexican sidekick. Here's where I cry. That I adopted 2 months ago. What a spectacular dog. Diana. So that's the way I ended this story. I called Diana, I gave her the name Pancho because she was a fat Mexican, and the Cisco Kid, when I was growing up, TV Cowboy, had a fat Mexican sidekick named Pancho. So that's where the name came from. And it was Diana who said, she's a girl, Panchita. And all through the Southwest, and 10 months in the Rio Grande Valley that's 91% Latino recently, people loved hearing. Panchita's gone now, but they loved hearing that I had a chihuahua named Panchita. So, that's Diana. Thanks, Diana. I love you. We're soul friends forever. And Diana's blind now. Among her many, many physical maladies, she is totally blind. She won't be able to see this, but I've performed it for her many times. When I was living up in the mountains, I performed it for her. She was sitting in my car, and I was standing on the sidewalk, and we videotaped it, and I performed it. And I'll send this one to her, too. Love you, Diana. Thanks.